All right, we'll now convene this March 13th budget work session of the Centreville Town Council. First up, we'll have a citizens forum. Citizens are requested to keep their comments to 3 minutes. Are there any citizens that wish to address the council? Okay, we'll head right into it then.
All right, so you guys have agenda in front of you. We'll go through this as we can. If you need to sidebar anything or have questions as we go through, just let me know. My plan was to start with the operating budgets for, expense budgets for general fund and then enterprise, unless anybody has a different.
I move we approve the budget as presented.
Where's the second?
I read it, it looks good.
You know, I said that to Karen today. I said, I'm good.
You don't want to reduce the tax rate?
All right,
Well,
all
off
right.
to the races we go.
Yeah.
Give me a second here.
Sorry, Karen.
No, you're fine.
I tried.
We appreciate it.
Yes.
We appreciate it.
So what you have in front of you is the FY26 operating budget, capital budget. I guess the first thing, instead of going to budget then, we'd like to talk about rates of a few things and get them set and straight, and then we can go through the budget?
Sure.
Does that work? Okay. All right, so currently in the budget, the property tax rate is 0.535 cents per hundred of assessed value. That brings the property tax revenue this year to $3,913,944. And then if you guys want to have any discussion amongst yourself, since Dan brought it up, right now the budget currently sits with a transfer to fund balance of $123,000. There are a few updates that aren't in here based on the fact that we haven't got final numbers yet, so that could certainly adjust accordingly. And I know there was some discussion about adding a code enforcement, possibly full-time, that we may discuss tonight as well. So I just want to throw that out there as you're talking about the rate, that yes, it does show in the black right now, but if you adjust that, it will be adjusted probably in week 2 based on when Crystal gets rates in, so.
Yeah, the tax rate's probably the last thing to confirm in my book.
Yeah.
After we work through everything else. I was surprised that your property tax revenue only went up about 7%, seems like.
And, you know, when I was looking at the constant yield, I was surprised about that too, because the assessed value went up quite dramatically, but yeah.
20%.
Yep.
The constant that's issued by state headquarters for this area went up 20%, and that, no matter how hard you appeal, they can't change that.
Yeah, because we've talked to the SSTAT, Ashley and I talk to SSTAT a couple times a year, and we try to get feedback on that, because I know sometimes council does ask, but yeah.
1.39 this year is the constant
Is the,
for us,
yeah.
which was about 20 points higher than last time. So
I was
that's-
like,
that's right where it
whoa.
came from, that 20% just sort of,
Yeah, I was really surprised by the assessed value. It went from 600 and some million to 731,578,332, based on the constant yield sheet emailed to, and it should be in the supplemental packet of your information that I gave in the printout. So we can come back to that. Did you want any discussion, Dan, since you had discussed it, just to put your thoughts out?
Yeah, I know, we'd have to come up with like, I was gonna, well, anyway, I was thinking the compromise between like constant yield and 535, you know, because the consumer price index has not increased 7%. I mean, we're asking for a 7% budget increase essentially. You know, and I did all these calculations and I left the sheet of paper at home, so I'm just kind of doing it from off the top of my head. And so, you know, I think it'd be good, you know, for the citizens to have a little bit of a tax rate reduction.
And I will tell you that 1 penny reduction would bring us to 0, and that's before we have the final numbers for health insurance.
so it's about
Workers-
120,000 a penny? Okay, thank you. That's a good number to know.
So if we did go down a penny, we would probably not be in the black once we got the updated final, because health
We'd have
insurance.
to, yeah, but that assumes we're gonna hire do all the things that this
Absolutely.
budget says we're gonna do.
Yep.
Right, so we might not be doing all those things.
Okay.
Wanted.
Any other discussion on property tax until we get further in?
Anybody want to second my motion now?
Yeah, see, there's a chance. And a lot of it depends on what the county's gonna do. We don't really know that at the moment. I mean,
Yeah, and it's not like we have the meeting with them like we used to when we could, you know, they're pretty set on their, so that,
That
yeah.
was last night, wasn't it? Was it last night, Jeff? Yeah.
They said this year's budget was probably gonna stay the same, but then 2027 is the real doozy one. So with, highway user revenue funds and everything, so.
So they're gonna keep the tax rates the same for the towns and, yeah,
According to them, yes.
Tax set off.
all right.
Yeah.
Set off will be the same.
Yes,
All right.
13 cents, yeah.
All right, the public utility tax rate currently is $13 per $100 of assessed value. Is there any discussion on that? Are we good with leaving it as is? There have not been no complaints, and all bills have been paid by Delmarva and Verizon, so.
I think we leave that alone, in my opinion.
At some point, do we add the cable company to this?
My assumption would be yes, once the state will determine if they have,
The assessable amount?
yep, and then once they're within that accessible value, they'll start sending me on the updated certifications. I usually start getting them in September, October. We have MCI, which I think is the phone service for the jail. We have Verizon, Delmarva Power, and then Talkie has a very small, theirs was very small this year. So,
So little of it's probably operational at this point. Okay.
Once Comcast and Talkie are fully through town, then.
I think that we'll see some more revenue coming that way, yep. All right, so can I get a consensus on the $13, or did you all want to wait?
Good for now, but let's wait to confirm it at the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Water and sewer rates currently are based on the 5% increase that was voted on a few years ago by ordinance, 5% each year. So
Say,
that's where,
It's definitely an
yeah.
ordinance, not so easy
Yeah.
to change.
All right, well, I guess we can start with the expense budget if that's all right with everybody.
Yeah.
All right, so in your budget pack, we could start on page 5. I just had department heads sit up at the table, so you could directly chat with them.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No.
The other revenues, when did you want to go through those?
We can if you want to do revenues first.
Just wondering if you.
Yeah,
if
we
you
can
did the-
definitely.
You did the first couple of lines.
Yeah,
and
yep.
We can jump to expenses if you
So
want.
I think we should jump to expenses because it feels like we're just gonna defer everything related to revenue.
Got it.
Until we see what we're doing with expenses.
Okay.
All right, so page 5, this would be legislative budget, so council's budget. The only increase you'll see this year, a big increase, is the $1,500 in line 1, which is the cost for the volunteer appreciation dinner. I think, you know, with the gifts and the prices of the food and stuff,
It's going up.
it's going up. So the footnote you see there is for the only increase. So if you have any questions, Gay or Carolyn is here too to answer any questions you have.
Is
Or-
that, convention meetings line enough when like this year 4/5 of the council's going to MML? I know it's usually enough, but
But usually only like 2.
There's 4.
And MML is in this fiscal year.
I know, but I'm thinking ahead, like if we
Yeah, yeah.
continue to see
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it probably does if it continues to be 3 to 4, because Gay, what was the, is the conference registration up to 700?
725 or something.
725.
And that's before,
Hotel and,
which is the next
The
line.
next line, yeah.
All right, I was just curious. I mean, those might be okay.
yeah, I think that would cover probably almost 3. But if, you know, if we had the intent of 3 or 4, then that may need adjusting.
And dues and subscriptions is largely MML.
Yep,
That's MML,
that's
yeah.
all it is.
That's all
That's
MML.
all it is, yeah. And we don't normally get the final number on that.
Until after the budget's approved
Yes.
sometimes.
Yeah.
So sometimes we leave it the same, sometimes we'll add a little bit.
Okay.
All right, any other questions? or-
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
So on donations, didn't we do in this fiscal year the Arts Council?
Ashley, did you already do a donation yet?
In October, we approved money for the porch party. I'm just not
We
seeing
did.
that on the actuals.
Yeah, I'll check on that.
I'll make sure we pay that if we haven't.
And it might be, it's in
We
a different
have,
line, so
yeah.
we'll
Maybe
double check.
Okay.
And that was from October.
The event was in October, so I feel we approved it maybe in July we'd have to see when the Arts Council
Yeah.
came in front of us.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can check.
That may have gone into the Main Street budget too.
Yeah, but just figuring out where that is.
I'll check.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions for A10? Any changes currently? I know they could, All right. Page 6, A70, planning and zoning budget. The only big change is the decrease in contract services based on possibly getting a zoning administrator, so removing the consultant from the planning and zoning line to help cover some of the cost. And the increase in the training line was for them to be able, commission members to be able to attend the state conference.
So the zoning administrator would cover all of the current duties of the contract services? Is that the plan? Okay. And any relief for you, or, because you're like,
What was that?
Any
I mean,
relief for you?
is
Oh,
that?
gosh, yes.
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
yes.
Because that's,
That's what I did all
because
afternoon.
that's your title, right? Until
Yes,
somebody else
she
comes
is
along.
also
Yes,
the zoning
yes.
administrator.
Yeah.
Okay.
Floodplain person,
Yeah.
zoning.
So, yeah, my plan is to get a planner. So, yes, it would cover, what Stacy currently does now.
So that could go
And
away.
I did have a discussion with her only because I knew it was gonna be discussed in an open session about this. So she does know that it's put in there. I said, I don't know what the council's decision will be, but just so she knew it when we were discussing it, so,
Yeah, Karen knew something about it too, so just,
okay.
okay.
Any other questions on planning and zoning or changes? Okay. Page 7, A81, 105 North Liberty. This is the building that we rent out next to the Liberty Building. The only change was the 10% estimated increase in liability insurance based on we haven't got full numbers yet. This covers the management company that runs the building and all the expenses that go along with it. And the revenue line is in the revenue side, which is higher than the expense that we spend out on the building. So we do. All right. Page 8 and 9 is administration budget. A couple bigger increases. Special events, so line 1 footnote is adding 39,000 in. Sorry, Ashley. For fireworks for the 25th
Thought we
anniversary.
put fireworks to bed, man.
Okay, where we doing the fireworks?
I know this is him, and I do love a firework, but where do we have a place to do them? In town?
Shaver Farm.
So it's in town now. Loophole.
I got approved, I got it from the property owner. Said we could-
Providence Farm.
Until they build something
land we
there.
just annexed.
Okay.
Well, it's
Oh,
passed.
so now it is, huh?
So it's the new where Mr.
Listen.
Karen owns.
They're not growing corn this
It
year?
is the-
I can be
They are, but
convinced
he
because
said we
it's
can
the
do whatever we want to.
250th.
And I think
Okay.
Jeff can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't know, are you planning this past 2026 or just for 2026 for the anniversary? I wasn't sure.
How much are
We'll-
fireworks again?
We'll go 2026 and then we'll reassess it. How's that?
39,000 was
Gotta
added,
get the money from somewhere. How much do we give Goodwill?
75.
Is it?
Whoops.
Yeah, that's good.
Listen, fire expenses, firehouse, fireworks.
They're all,
You'd think we have fireworks, would have to increase what we send to the fire department.
Yeah,
Right?
really.
Yeah, I
Put
mean,
out the fire for the fire.
I love fireworks. Don't get me wrong. It's just they've gotten so crazy expensive.
Yeah.
They have.
But for the 250th, I understand.
Yeah.
I also do, I mentioned to a couple of you wanting to either abandon First Fridays or bring them under town events because I can't individually manage it. I think there's a belief that it is a town event. I wish Carol was here only because at the last town meeting she said, well, what I thought she said, it can't possibly be what she said, so somebody correct me if I heard this wrong, but that she spends all of her time, all of her bandwidth is for Centreville Day. That's why she needs that promoter for Drink Maryland, which if we're spending 1,000 hours a year on Centreville Day, like let's
No, I don't think.
let's
it's
really
a-
think about
Yeah, I don't think
that.
it's- No, I don't think the majority is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think from probably the fall.
Yeah, there's probably a couple months that's very
yes,
full
and then
time.
they're gonna start on Drink Maryland.
But I would love to have that conversation, and First Fridays is really inexpensive, so it's like $2,000 covers kind of the music and all the things for the whole season of it. I don't think we need to increase this line any higher above 50,000, but I would like us to consider that and also consider what is our policy gonna be for events coming for this money? Because I know for the last couple years, it's felt like we've been kind of one-offy about Halloween or other things. And so just making sure that, I don't know, we have some sort of thoughtful way that money gets spent on events. And I just hope you can get fireworks for less than like $25,000.
I'll work on it.
No, they're about 30.
They're 30.
Well, they might go down.
We got a, Gay got a
Might go down
quote.
by next year, who knows?
The county used to
County
pitch-
had
the county
helped
used to
us
pitch in for
previously.
that.
The county had given us 5,000.
Yes,
So we
5,000.
used to spend like 13,000 on
Yeah.
fireworks.
Painful.
I think it started out, the county was paying half. The original concept was half, because it was 10,000.
And then the cost kept
They
going
paid
up and
five.
their
The cost kept going
contribution
up
didn't
and-
go up.
Right.
But I think for the 250th, we have to get serious about the county being a player in that and other entities being a player in that. Legacy
And
Foundation and others.
I don't mind talking to the county. I can talk to
Okay.
Todd about that.
Because, yeah, I mean, I think it's great, but like $30,000 for 15 minutes?
And I think the excess, or
Wild
the
to
extra
me.
cost also includes rides, Gay, correct me if I'm wrong?
Similar to the events in the past.
Okay.
I
Permission from
requoted,
Bob for all that.
requoted the past events as they were,
Okay.
the last one, and that's the number.
You'd put that stuff all at the high school again, or still
No, put it
yeah,
all
except
at the high school, no.
put that at
'cause
the
you-
high school and then the
Yeah,
fireworks
it's
out
just the
here?
fireworks, because you only need like an acre to a half acre to shoot fireworks off.
And it's
And
like
500 feet.
$30,000 for
100 feet.
15 minutes. I just want to keep
That's-
saying
yeah.
that. Okay.
We're looking at a Thursday as well, and that was cheaper, July 2nd.
Imagine what the
Day of the week
Saturday
is it?
costs.
Well, the 4th of July is way higher than, yeah,
A second?
on the 4th, yeah.
Thursday's just fine.
I'm in the wrong business.
We would compete with the county on the 4th and the 3rd.
No, I'm saying I'd like us
And
to,
Rock
to
Hall.
find a way to fit it in that line.
Where is it now?
It's not.
Oh, it's not in there
I've been
anymore?
personally paying for it
Oh, okay.
for the last couple years.
All right.
Legacy Foundation contributed and then they stopped last year. And then I've been paying for it since.
Okay.
How would we go about incorporating that into it as a
Yeah.
town function? Would that be during a council meeting, that it'd be a resolution or something?
Yeah,
to
I
add
think
the
so, and I
activity?
think we need to talk to Carol, because she did that special events form, and there is a checkbox on there for our things at town event. So I'm happy to sit down with Carol and then come back with something fully baked, but I just do think
Yeah,
if we're gonna budget 50,000 for special events, that cannot be 15 minutes of fireworks and a couple hours of something. Like, we could spend that more wisely to have a broader range of things for town residents. But we won't do a first Friday in July, we'll do a first Thursday. It'll be the best 15 minutes of your life, Jeff. All right,
Make a lot of people happy.
Yeah,
I will make a lot of people happy
yeah.
for
we
1
have,
year.
we have a new neighbor that might participate in this too, the YMCA.
yeah.
Okay. That could be nice. All right, the next increase, you'll see footnote 2 would be salaries. So as the previous year or two, we have automatically baked in the COLA and merit based on discussion with council. So that's already baked in. And what the other piece of the increase is to add an addition of a summer intern and a zoning administrator. And so that's why you see the increase. So you guys want to have some discussion on those?
I mean, I think it's probably time for a zoning administrator. We've debated this for a long time and ended up not having it. I think with the number of projects, the amount in front of the planning commission, the annexation we just did, there's a lot. I also think we've talked a lot about code enforcement and those issues, and some of them are starting to rise to the level of a zoning administrator concern. The mill, there's some other properties in town that we probably need more intentional focus on. So I like the idea of them being the planner, and also it's not like every single week is really heavy zoning stuff, right? So them also being engaged in code enforcement to me would make sense. That way, when something reaches a critical point, like some things have, that they've been involved at least a little bit since the beginning with the code enforcement officer.
Yeah.
And inherently, they would have familiarity with the zoning ordinance if
Right.
they're the zoning administrator.
And if
But you
there's any
see that position as
changes.
sort of the hybrid between planner and code enforcement.
I don't think we should get rid of our code enforcement officer. I think there's a role for both of those people in that work, but they're the planner, and so there's a lot to do for the planning commission certainly. But I think it would be helpful. We only have our code enforcement officer for 10 hours, so if something's going on that's a code violation and he's not here, he's not here. So like, it would be helpful if there was someone that was here. I mean, driving through town today, there is a new piece of metal on the mill that is bent and waving in the wind up there. So I think there are things that it would be good if the zoning administrator was also focused on.
That's almost a public safety issue.
Yeah, I
It's
think
outside of
we're
zoning.
to that point.
Yeah.
So I like it. I think it's time. I'm sure the contract planner's been great. I don't have a lot of experience with her, but when we annex that land, Carter Farm is going to come back in front of us at some point. All the work on the TND, if Kara's watching, she probably wants to virtually kick me. The sign ordinance work that I really think needs to be done. I think there's a lot of things that this person would be able to have intentional focus on. Not that Carolyn hasn't focused on those things, but we really need her to be doing other things and managing the overall business of the town. So I'm in favor of it.
I will tell you this number here is not inclusive of code enforcement. Crystal, am I correct?
Yeah, the part-time,
The part-time.
the current one, that.
You removed that in this?
I didn't remove it. It was erroneously forgotten
Yeah.
in
Okay.
the list, but he doesn't, or this position does not, because it is a part-time position, it would only be the salary, not the
There's no other-
insurances that
yeah.
are affected. So I've already mentioned that to Karen.
I just wanted,
But she
so
had
we'll
already
have it in
printed
the
these
next
out.
work session,
Okay.
but I wanted you to be aware.
Yeah,
Okay. Because, yeah, I don't think we should get rid of that.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just with the short period that I've been here, it's like, should there be, which I think someone said earlier on, should there be additions to that? Because it's resounding as far as just, code enforcement is an issue for the town. It just is, and we know it. So with the zoning administrator, their focus, initially is going to be on other things, and getting up to speed with the code and other things associated with planning. So do we need, 10 hours is really like small. And with such a resounding problem that we have for the town, I feel, there should be additional budgeted dollars for
More hours.
the enforcement, because
Yeah.
it's something that's not being addressed. And I realize, the mill you just spoke about, again, there's a collaborative effort here, but I just think, it was resounding from citizens, even when I'm talking to people, are like, how do we enforce, what we currently have on the books? What are we doing about it? And I can't really give a good answer.
Would you like me to calculate a full-time code enforcement?
I'd love to see halftime and full-time. If we
Yeah.
increase to halftime, do we have to do benefits then? I know we did something with part-time employees.
20 hours
Yeah.
and
Yes.
more.
Right.
Okay.
And
So the zoning administrator is full-time, right? Is that,
zoning administrator will be
Okay.
full-time.
all right.
And so that's what I was thinking, if you had a full-time zoning administrator and a half-time code enforcement person even, then you could maybe get 30 hours of attention a week
Yeah.
on code enforcement.
And the zoning administrator could be doing a lot of the paperwork. In
Right.
support of a
Right.
code enforcement officer.
If they're out making a list of citations and someone else can be doing the letters and,
Right.
that sort of work.
Coming up with code references, et cetera.
Yeah. I mean, and now that we cleaned up the code for violations and stuff, we should be able to have just like form letters for all those things that then the code enforcement officer can just drop in. Here's the address and here's the code section and here's the associated violation and keep it.
Yeah,
moving.
and for the most part, that is what he does. We do run across some that are a little kind of off the,
Yeah.
little different. So there's been there was a letter that went out last week that was a little bit more involved. So I ended up writing up the letter based on, I had to talk to Kip about things and Sharon about some things. So for the most part, they're standard ones, and yeah,
The library grows, though, on
Yes.
form letters. That's
yes.
good, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Excuse me, as far as just, I think education is a big thing, as far as just, talking to business owners, educating them about it. Not so, here's a letter to enforce. It's about, hey, I wanted to let you know about this. Do you know about, which we talked at the last meeting. And it's more of just developing relationships with those businesses in town or whatever. So, whether it's a business or a property owner, et cetera. And I think creating that relationship, I think, is important with people and citizens in the town. And knowing it's a partnership, it's not just a boom enforcement issue. I think that's really important for the town.
Yeah, awareness ahead of time, right, so you don't have,
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, right, help us comply.
so if there's a kind way to write it,
Yes.
it could go out
Yes.
as an attachment of the water bill, it could go in the e-blast.
Yeah, and we've talked about that and done a little bit of that. Here are some things you might not know, grass heights
Yeah.
and trash cans and those things.
Educate them and then enforce them.
Yeah, I also think a zoning administrator helps with some of the other issues we have about like projects coming to us that don't meet our standards. Like them having a specific person that's available in the
Have a
town office to
conversation.
have a conversation with, that's a town employee, that you can reasonably rely on what they say. And like, I'm not saying anything inflammatory about the current person, I just think there's not an ability for that level of comfort for her to speak on behalf of the town or for people to rely on. So us having our own planner, I think would be really good.
All right. The next increase you'll see is in contract service professional fee. Did I say that right? I sure did. And so at this point, when we switched over from IT from the county to what we currently have, it was kind of a fast thing because of how things were going. The cost per hour on the things that we need is getting ridiculous. So we have looked into an addition of a company that manages our IT services, and a software through a provider, Esri, we currently have for cemetery software to kind of get the cemetery software. I think now it's managed by a spreadsheet, so I think it would dramatically help. So that's where you see the increase for those two.
The 45,000 specifically in the software line is what?
Specific to the managed IC services was in the mid-40 range. I only added 30-something because we had already had 20 or 15 in the budget for the current IT contract that we have. And then the cemetery software increase was like 9 or 10, I think.
So it's kind of software as a service then that you're doing?
Yeah, so we already do business with Esri. Kip does for, are they doing the asset management or?
The, Esri
GIS?
is the utility mapping.
Okay.
So, and
So
it's
they
all
have a-
GIS generated, so. it would
They have
do
a
the same-
cemetery feature that you can add on, like bundle with what we currently have to add that cemetery piece and then go with a company that manages our IT. That way we have consistent support and then pay, instead of paying every time. Like
Every
if we
time we
call
call.
to change a password, it's 100, it's ridiculous.
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
45,000 increase at first glance looked like purchased software, but you're talking about it more as a subscription or a recurring cost?
Correct.
Okay.
Just the initial piece in this year. With any installation there would be, any of that is what is you see in there, but yeah, and the first year cost.
And fireworks in the cemetery already hitting all my
Getting it
super
through
favorites.
first.
Right,
Yes.
getting it through. And Karen, we did get the quote yesterday, so, I mean, bearer of bad news
While we're
here. It was
here.
a little higher.
While
and
we're here.
It came in at almost 16,000 to do all the upfront work for the
And
cemetery.
that's the implementation of the cemetery.
I was very surprised.
That's
What's
getting-
wrong with the
working-
spreadsheet situation? No, seriously.
So.
I mean, it's not like
this-
the busiest thing going on, we hope.
We do, Kip can maybe even talk, and Gary, but in the office wise, we do, this would allow people to, it would be more online instead of in the office. They could choose their space instead of Gary meeting them out there. They could, I'm trying to remember all the features that it has. It would actually map
And
out
find-
each space.
Find their loved ones online. They
yeah.
can search online instead of coming to the office and we pull out our spreadsheet and map.
And 1920
book and
and,
find them.
yeah.
Then DPW has to meet them on site to show them where that where that burial, plot or space is.
You guys won't miss doing that?
Well, I'll put it this way. If it carries on, we're gonna hire another full-time person.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
you know, which way do you wanna go
Yeah.
with it?
I mean, there's gonna be some element of not everyone is totally online.
Oh, yeah, no, understand that. Yeah, we're still gonna have people that come in. It's more, it also, you know, invoices, they can pay for their spaces online, they can basically do everything they do in the office.
And it tracks
So
in the
probably
system.
And it
like
tracks
companies
in the
that own
system.
cemeteries probably already have this.
Yes.
Yes.
People
Yes.
in the cemetery business.
Yes, people in the cemetery business,
Yes.
yes.
The other thing,
Which we are.
We are.
Begrudgingly.
Begrudgingly, yeah.
the other thing it does is it'll map that cemetery with GPS, because that cemetery is so old, and it's a mix match of when spaces were sold and everything. The way it works now, a lot of times we have to take at least 2 people out there, and you have to measure from known spaces because it's marked with a headstone or something to know which lot it's in and the direction that the space is situate on the lot. So, you know, you've got 3 tape measures and 2 people out there trying to locate a single space, whether it be for a burial or for, you know, somebody wants to buy a space and look at it. This is GPS. You go out there with the Trimble unit and it'll take you and stand you right on top of it. So,
So Gay, the 16,000 was implementation cost? Because what I'll do is, that's not inclusive of what's in here right now. That was just the annual cost for the service.
So we need to add
They
16K.
stand somewhere.
Correct.
So, and then, sorry to go backwards, but just I'm trying to keep track of like what's not here.
Yep.
What's the current cost of the code enforcement officer that's not in the salary line? Even just a ballpark. If we
10
didn't
hours.
change it, if it was just the 10 hours.
Oh,
$25 an hour, isn't it?
hang on.
Maybe he makes.
I can calculate it really
Paying
quick.
this guy more.
Yeah, so I'm thinking. It's about experience, Jeff.
Yeah, Jeff.
That's what maybe other people made as a code enforcement officer.
I don't know, damn, is that,
I got experience.
Be on that.
I'd say about 12,000.
was it?
Okay,
Yeah.
Did I miss that?
yeah.
It should be on.
And then there's another 16.5 for the software that's not in here.
Yes.
Okay. Just trying to keep track. We're chipping away at that little bit of fund
are.
balance transfer.
It's in the last.
Just so you know, Janelle and I are
Right, how much
working
was
on, with
Estimate.
spatial systems, a way to
Okay.
bring down the cost. We just haven't gotten that down yet.
Okay.
And just think if we,
For code enforcement, we're gonna go to halftime.
I know,
yeah,
I'm just
Yeah.
looking at what's missing.
that's what I was
Yeah,
just
yeah.
getting ready to say, Jim. I was gonna say, we'll probably add a little more based on the halftime just to see.
Right.
Yeah.
So, in next week, you know, all the changes we make, we'll bring a new budget back and see where, and we can adjust accordingly.
Settles out.
Much cleaner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, those were the 3 big changes. The only, you know, the health insurance, we did a flat 10% rate. FICA's based on, and pension are based on the state rates. Those increases are there. Are there any other questions in the A92 budget that you all have?
Oh, I had a question on the grant writer for administration. So it's 10 in last year's budget. This year, you know, it's 5, so it went down 5K. Any, like, reason?
Yeah, so we also work, we have, no, that's okay. So we have Tanya. We used to
Right, right.
contract for a grant writer. We used to have actually 2 of them. One that was more statewide grants, and then we were working with a lady who was very familiar with federal grants. And since Tanya has come on, Tanya does all our grants, but she
Right.
does talk to, and I cannot. think-
Stephanie.
Stephanie, when we have some federal grants to kind
Yeah,
of help her
more
through, but
clarity
we don't
and
use her as
expertise.
much as we used to.
Okay,
So we
very
kind of,
good. Thank
we
you.
reduced her down
Okay.
some.
All right, oh, do you see I did that?
What's that? Oh, did you?
All right, any other questions on A92? All right, next up, page 10, B10, Police Department. I'll go through the increases, and then if you all have any questions, we can go through them. The first one is,
Let me back up, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
The bottom of page 9 did have the cost transfer for
Correct.
the enterprise fund to absorb some of the cost of,
So right now, we have a 5% allocation of cost transfer. We can adjust accordingly. We'll see how things, last year, we took it away to 0 because we wanted to make sure everything stayed balanced. We'll see where we're at as we move forward.
or interrupt.
No, you're good. All right, so line 1, or the first footnote for B10 is K-9 expense. This is the increase for an addition of another K-9 in the fiscal year. Did you guys want to talk each one out, or do you want me to list them all and then we can do all questions at once?
I don't have a preference, so
All
I
right.
have some questions that are not in the footnotes, though.
Okay. All right, I'll just go through them a little quick and then we can discuss. Line 2 is salaries overtime, just an increase based on trend for the previous fiscal year. Line 3, I absolutely missed, and my apologies. It should be B10 7190, employee expense. And the increase here is just, Crystal wanted to break out background checks and drug testing by department. Line number 4 is software, and that would be the IAPO and Lexipos Pro software that they have. And the 5 conventions and meetings is just the increase to allow the chief and lieutenant to attend MML. So I guess I'll open it up for any B10 police questions.
Yeah, so looking at special events, why is the actual so much higher than the budget for this year? It's the third line. Looks like the budget was 2,500 and you've spent 7,500 on special events?
Yes, I think I have to look into it to give you an exact answer for that. I think it was because of the increase of the amount of events that we had to attend. We had to spend some extra monies in a lot of those events, but I'll get you an actual breakdown.
I just want to make sure, like, maybe it's not enough to budget the same amount again. If we went $5,000 over, maybe we need to change what we budget for
Yeah,
that.
we've had a lot of requests this year for police officers attending multiple different events where we've had to pay a lot of overtime, which you'll see that obviously in the overtime portion as well. But we put out a lot of money as well for several
That
events.
first stuff. And I think it's good. You know, you and I have talked a lot about community policing. Let's let the budget reflect reality a little bit. So that might have to increase once we look at what that was spent on.
So Ashley or I can get you an account detail, chief, so we can kind of go over it for the next session if you want. Any other questions?
So the pension expense, it's 53K higher. What did you speak to that already as far as?
That will
the-
actually lower,
It's
regarding the
LEOPS,
pensions.
it's what it covers.
Yeah, it's the LEOPS, the Maryland State Retirement. But that number will actually go down slightly. In my estimate, I had an employee listed twice, so that will go down.
it'll come down.
She had already printed these sheets out.
Yeah,
I didn't
so-
want to make changes to what you had. But
Yeah.
It's the first meeting.
Yeah, no worries,
It's
yeah.
on the last page here, the rates, yeah.
And I did put the new pension and LEOPS pension rates on your notes tab at the back, just so
Thank
you
you.
knew what they were.
What is the FAMLI?
That's the state paid family medical leave, so
Time to bring that up.
I'm sorry?
Perfect time to bring it up.
Okay,
you
so, I had Karen put in the budget the 0.9% that the state is going to be, charging, so council has the choice to, as an employer, we have to cover at least 50% of that 0.9%. I just had her just put the 0.9% in there just to figure out, okay, this is what it is. Council can always make a decision if they want to reduce what they're gonna cover. Right now, it's just showing employer covering 100% of that contribution.
And that's full and part-time employees we have to do that for?
Correct.
Because I saw it on the council
It's
budget,
also on the
too.
council sheet, yes.
Yeah.
They said there's no exceptions.
Wild.
I see that's in administration.
Now,
too. I
it
missed
is,
Okay.
still at legislation, I know the state is trying to, our Department of Labor is trying to extend or delay the contribution, 18 months. But I wanted to keep it in here just in case, because we haven't heard any final decisions.
So you'll see that in each of the 5 budgets that have people in them, and that's based on 0.9% of the salary.
Correct.
And so we put the full 0.9% in, and you guys could adjust as you want. but we had put it in. Otherwise, any other, if you lower it, the difference would go to the employee at that point. Okay, any other A9 or B10 questions? Jeez. I'm going backwards. All right, Chief, you're off the hook for a minute. All right.
For a minute.
I think page 12 is Jeff.
We need an 80% increase in this number.
80%.
Sorry, I do have a question, my apologies. So, on the red speed fees, it's just keeping the budget flat, but if you look at it looks like it's been lower. Is there any reason to keep that number, or is it just?
Chief and I, so a couple years ago, we were getting good revenues from it. The expenses were in line. The last couple years, I know when previous chief had moved some cameras, we lost some revenue. So,
Yeah.
So we initially had 3 cameras that were out deployed. We were down a camera for quite some time, almost a year's period, where we lost quite a bit of revenue. Ultimately, that's been changed, so we're looking to provide an increase with the 3rd camera coming in.
With 3 cameras.
so to possibly get back to where we were revenue and expense wise.
Okay, so this is just, it's
This is
lower
the
because we
expensive
didn't have all the cameras, okay.
But in theory, ultimately, revenue should go down because people's behavior should change.
Absolutely. You get a ticket, you're like, never want to do this again.
Hope.
Yes.
You do hope, but.
Yep. Okay, page 12 would be Goodwill Fire Department. We didn't do anything different. We left the current, or the upcoming budget to be the same as last year. I figured you guys could have discussion amongst yourself.
We just
We will.
did a substantial increase. So I'm good with where it is.
If we build a lot more housing, I think we open up
Yeah.
more, but.
We upped it 30,000, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I
We're
think we're
not
good
doing that
there.
anytime soon, so.
And nobody's asked me to ask for more, so.
Okay, all right. So everybody good with staying where we're currently at? Yep. All right, page 13, C11, Streets Department. I'll just go through the increases and then we'll come back to questions. Line 1, salaries is to add a part-time seasonal position, which would be April to September, 40 hours a week. And then, of course, we did, because Kip and Conley's time is split between streets and water and sewer, we kind of moved some of their salary back into those lines to try to account for where they
That's why
should
it
be.
looks negative.
Yeah.
Yeah. Number 2 would be equipment rentals, and this is just the increase in the cost to rent the equipment and the trend currently where we're at above what the budget was. Number 3 is the HUR money, and that's just an increase based on the estimate we get from the state. So the revenue line and the expense line for HUR are exactly the same.
Okay.
Based on the last letter I got. Number 4 is the sidewalk revolving fund per council request. We have put it back in the budget and we have started at 50,000. Again, you guys can discuss after and see if there's,
That's a, that's a fund contribution, not an expense.
correct.
Thank you.
Number 5 would be telephone and internet, and that's just, based on trend. We want to make sure we have enough in the budget so you're not seeing overages. And number 6 would be the repair and maintenance of vehicles, and I just think to kind of be more in line with the way the repair costs are higher than normal, and the current trend of where we're at now is already above the budget, so. So I guess I'll open it up for any questions you have for Kip.
Yeah, same question as I asked the chief, kind of, if we're at 20,000 for repair and maintenance this year, do we think 15's enough, or? It's hard to guess, right?
Yeah,
We hope less, but hey.
Yeah, I mean, in recent years, council's been very good with letting us replace trucks and stuff. So even though stuff isn't going out for repairs quite as much, the cost of the repairs is going up. So the other thing we've kind of found is that when you used to be able to change a $20 part and take care of it, now that part's 3 times the size of it, and it's 3 times the cost of it.
Right.
So,
Okay.
Any other questions for the streets? Again, like I said, it is adding 1 part-time seasonal position.
What is the increase in contract services? It's like 25,000.
Oh, I left a side note out for that, didn't I?
the,
No.
It's just the way it's gonna be, yeah, okay, never mind,
okay.
yeah, all right.
Relating to, just a question on the trees, You know, I love trees, but I just want, you know, there's 15,000 that was budgeted in 25 and then just done again in 26. What is this for? To plant trees in town?
And now, this is to remove trees that
Okay, go
become a
on.
danger or
Okay,
problem.
well.
Opposite of what you
Opposite of
thought.
what I was thinking.
Yep, sorry about that. From time to time, we have.
She said, "I
you know,
love trees,"
love
and then you
trees.
went and just.
I know, sorry about
Okay, go
that.
ahead, I know what it is. I can take it.
But, yeah, if we have a tree that's, over a roadway or falls
Yeah,
in
falls
the
in a
roadway,
storm or whatever.
and we
Yeah,
call
yeah, tree
contractors in to help
Okay.
take it down, or
Okay.
take them, clean it up.
Sometimes, so this is just, again, we haven't had any costs yet, but it's just, you know, storms,
And
you
that's,
never know.
with that one, that's the way it works. There's times we may not have a need for it that year.
Right.
And then there's times, the next thing you know,
Right.
you've got 2 trees and it eats the budget up.
And, sorry, snow removal, where's that in here? Is that somewhere else?
It's on the third line from the
It's, yeah,
top.
near the top.
So that's another one you never know.
Yeah, that's,
You're
Be
probably
good or
gonna blow
bad.
that budget, right, this year?
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things you don't know, yeah.
Right, and again, it may seem like we're not getting a lot of snow, or we may
Yeah.
get little incidents where it's only a few inches of snow, but all that wear and tear on the vehicles and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
plows
Okay,
is costly, so.
thank you.
And your crew did a great job these last couple of storms.
Yeah, that's one thing I can definitely attest to. We've got a very good DPW staff. Everybody gets along. It's great. Keep your fingers crossed. They're a good,
Yes.
good bunch.
Good.
Great, awesome group. I love telling the story. We had somebody who started Public Works, and his first day, there was the snowstorm, and he worked 24 hours.
Oh my God!
And he's still here.
Yeah, really.
Yes.
He's still here.
All right, any other street questions? All right, page 15 is C22, waste removal. The only increase you'll see here is the cost of the actual contract. We are in the final year, Kip, am I correct, of our current Chesapeake Waste so,
The end of June 2026, their contract will expire. So looking at January of '26, we'll be starting the process to go out to bids.
all right. Oh, any questions? I'm sorry. Any questions on? No? Okay. Page 16 is parks. The first line one, street decorations, the increase there is for new street decorations for replacement of old ones. I'm pretty sure some of the ones we have are really shoddy. So I think that's why they try to do a little bit more than normal this year to start getting some replacements. They're very expensive, by the way.
It looked great this year, though.
Yeah. Number 2, operating supplies. This
Can
is
I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
We did a special out-of-budget review cycle expenses for holiday decorations, didn't we, this past year?
we have it. Yeah, I thought yes. It was
That's
a
that's what we used for.
Capital
And that's
line.
why it's over.
That's not in here,
it's-
is it?
it was a capital line, I think.
Yeah, that was on capital.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, number 2, operating supplies is,
Sorry to interrupt
Oh,
again.
yeah.
So it was a capital budget, but the numbers got, I mean, we approved it as a capital expense, but it got expensed as an operating expense?
no, it's expensed in the capital line, so you don't see it in here. But I can get if you wanted to see the expense, I could get you the,
Just trying to understand the dynamics of it, you know, why it was high.
it was
It was-
originally in the operating budget, but there was a discussion last year, and I'd have to go back and look at the minutes.
It was because we hadn't put lighted decorations up for a while on as many streets, I'll put it that way. So that required some work on the services for several of them. We still don't have them all fixed yet, but that's the expense of the contractor coming in to take care of it.
All right, number 2 is operating supplies. The increase there is to do new shrubs and greenery at the park and memorial. I'll just stop. Number 3 is a boat pump out that has broke. They're looking for grant funding at the moment, but the cost is in there currently. So if we get a grant, that will be reduced. But just in case we don't, because it's broke.
And that's open to the public.
Correct. And a grant bought that one for us.
Okay.
We're
So
hopeful.
so are we repairing it, or or is it
We've
capital?
rebuilt it 2 times off the top of my head, maybe 3. And it's time to be
Get a new
rotated
one.
out. Yeah.
So it's not capital?
No, we just,
asking.
we have it here because it's probably gonna come out anyway, 'cause if it's a grant, it won't
Okay.
show up that way.
I just kind of want, yeah, we weren't sure, because we really think we're gonna get the grant for it, so it'll come out of
Not
here.
worried.
But I
Okay.
wanted, yeah.
More than like, they do have grant funding for that. We just have an issue getting a hold of the person at the state to Tanya. And yeah, Tanya has tried and, yeah.
What if we said, we're not gonna do it unless it's grant funded?
And I'll remove it from here.
But you're saying we need it?
Yeah, because the first one was bought with a grant. They monitor it, so I'm,
One for the environment, it's,
yes,
Good.
it
Well, yeah,
is, so.
yeah. And it's the only one down there, because it used to be on the county side in slip
the
one or
far-
something.
far
And then
one
we
down.
moved it over to our boat slips. The grant wouldn't pay for the move. They said, we'll pay for a new one, and we were like, no, we're just moving, it still works. But, yeah, a few years later, it does not work anymore.
okay.
That's somewhat timely related, right? You're gonna be needing it soon.
Yeah,
The season,
yep, that's, boat traffic's already picked up down
Yeah.
there.
Yes, it has.
right, so it's kind of something you have to do shortly.
Well, if we're scrambling later looking for money, I would say that we make that grant only,
Okay,
recoup that to pay for other things.
all right.
Number 4 is Wharf Lane Planning for Living Shore. This is a possible grant from the county.
And it's an ongoing program. We've got the wharf pretty much under control as far as the town property goes. We've got it knocked down to just a little spot treatment, but we've got other places on Millstream that are just inundated with it, and the plan is to move and get each place as we can.
Working up Millstream
Yes.
along the trail.
Yep, the next place would be the Captain's Houses Overlook area down there. That's probably, off the top of my head, the heaviest infestation that we've got is there. But the plan is to maintain what we've done so far and start grabbing more of it.
All right, any other questions for Parks? All right, page 17, Main Street. There is no increase and no change from, we do the same budget usually every year, so. Is there any questions for Main Street?
I would love to see a more broken out, I think I said this last year, it's okay, I'd love to see a more broken out Main Street, like, do we lose money on Drink Maryland? What does Centerville Day cost us versus sponsorship? Like, I would love to really fully understand kind of the business of Main Street, if possible.
Can that be, I don't know, it might be difficult kind of in the budget document, but just when Carol's speaking about the events as far as, like before, like it's
Yeah.
approved, like enough runway to say, here, I've done the analysis, here it is, do you approve? And the numbers are in here, but just from an analysis of a P&L by an event.
Yeah,
event, yeah.
and not everything
Yeah.
to me, at least has to be a revenue generator. Certainly fireworks are not gonna be a revenue generator, but to have a more full understanding of what
And
we're
I think-
investing our energy and our money in.
Right.
And I think, you know, we could also probably have her come in and maybe talk about some of, you know,
I do know that she tracks her own expenses and revenue that comes in for each event. I mean, she has her own spreadsheet before she sends it to.
all her
stuff
events
to-
are in like, in one line, you know, but with her, I could probably get with her and have her come in.
Yeah,
She
I'd
does
love to
break it
see
out.
that breakout.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I'd rather see it on paper than hear about it on a microphone.
Okay, would that include like extra police coverage and things like that? That we-
No, it
Yeah,
wouldn't.
So
No, it
that,
wouldn't.
okay.
It would
We'd
just
have
be
to-
what her expenses are, but not
Right.
Public Works and not police.
If you break even, we're probably really losing because,
Right, and
Yeah.
maybe it's okay,
Right.
but I would love to
yeah,
see
just,
it.
yeah.
Well, maybe from an accounting perspective, that's a cost transfer opportunity to look at. So chief ops would have to deal with us hammering out on expenses when
Right.
he's supporting other town functions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just would really, I mean, I think Centerville Main Street's great. I think town events are great. I would love to have a deeper understanding of it.
We can see too if she can come in next week or the week for one of the work sessions to kind of give an overview.
Of the
That-
events for the year.
and have a paper to kind of show you.
Bring the spreadsheets.
Yeah. All right.
I guess we don't really have a measure of how much it improves the businesses in town, you know, if it
Right.
draws extra
That's
people. We have no way of measuring that either.
Right.
Yeah, so,
Right, right. It's all anecdotal.
yeah, exactly.
Probably could be calculated in a study, but that
That would cost money to do
would
stuff.
cost money. It'd be fun to know, but not
Yeah,
that
I know.
Not that nice.
Maybe we can get a grant for that.
All right, page 18. Sorry.
There's a big zero in the revenues. I mean, we're just gonna assume that we're getting what we got last year, or, I mean,
I just did, yeah.
Okay.
It's on the actual revenue side. I always just add it in here, and I totally missed so when you
Okay.
look at the general fund revenue sheets, the numbers are there. I just need to transfer them here. I just try to put both so you guys can see.
Yeah, I think several years ago, the council asked for, can we just see what Main Street's revenues are, not just in the revenue
Yeah.
section.
Okay.
I will definitely
Looking
add
at
that.
the way
Yeah.
those two numbers relate to each other, it would be possible to absorb some of DPW and CPD into the Main Street budget.
Right, and like the revenues for Main Street are where I get super curious because we go from 56 to 32 to so far 7.
And some of them are grants, and some of them are, yes.
Like in I want to see that breakdown.
Yeah.
What for the last couple of years because I
Okay.
don't think looking at 1 year is going to help really understand the picture of Main Street. And I don't mean to keep picking on Main Street, but we had the Drink Maryland discussion at the last meeting. Like I really, really want to see a breakdown because I maintain that I don't think we have the right partner for that event. Like I'm willing to let it go for a year and see what happens. But if that's revenue neutral or worse, like I want to see that.
Okay.
All right, page 18, H60, cemetery. The only increase here is based on the interest earned the previous fiscal year, so the amount going to the cemetery advisory committee just increased a little bit based on the interest. Any questions on cemetery? All right, page 19, watershed, there is no increase. So, any questions on watershed?
Seem like we budget money and never spend it.
I think it all depends on what comes up. I know a lot of it is, like Mike goes to the trainings and stuff, so it just depends on what. I know 1 year he wasn't able to attend as much, but I think a lot of his consulting stuff is used in this line when we're, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, page 20, enterprise fund revenues, this is showing the 5% increase around for the sewer and the water, and then the farm revenue and investment earnings. So the only difference here is the 5% increase. Number 2 is based on 62 vacant lots, so that's where that number comes from. And number 3 is based on 25% of 17 allocations, and this would be for the Laser Drive Business Park. So that's for the sewer and water allocations. All right, page 22. Footnote 1 is just where we move salaries from C11 to here. And then number 2, which actually says number 1, I apologize, contract services should be 2. It's a 5% increase in contract costs to run the plant, the annual Neptune portal cost, the Esri software licensing cost, Brightly design cost. Oh, no, wait a minute, was that? Yeah. And then the bottom note under that is just the, if you all wanted to have a discussion on the funding for the design cost, Kip, I guess, of the wastewater treatment plant of $2.3 million. But did you want their discussion on funding it, how we're gonna fund it? Or is that, you just wanted me to make that note in there, do you remember?
Make that note. but
Okay, that was
answer
the,
questions.
just wanted to give you an idea of the cost of the design at this moment that we, All right, any questions on sewer? All right, page 25. Again, the salary line is the same, moving the director and superintendent, and the same for the contract services, the increase that we're just talked about in sewer. Any questions on water department? All right, and page 27 would be the farm, which has no change.
And no department name.
Sandy already, yeah. So what happened is the box is so small, so I have since, Sandy and I talked about it today, so it is increased, and next week it will be there. It says farm and irrigation spray, I think is what it is.
No wonder the box is too small.
Yeah. So it is on.
It's too small for farm?
And irrigation spray.
Yeah, I think because it says.
That's where it
and-
gets.
Yeah. So it will be on your next one.
Wild.
And just a side note to the farm, on the revenue side, that's probably going to reduce a little bit because, as you know, we're working on the engineering for expanding the lagoon. To do that, we're going to be taking away some of the tilled acreage, so the rent will decrease by those acres.
The enterprise fund budget, you get everything you wanted?
Does it, I'll be very honest with you, we haven't asked for a whole lot, because, as I said, council's been very good to us in the past several years. When you look at the capital, it's not big numbers or anything, or it shouldn't be big numbers to you to look at it. The other thing is, we know we've got this wastewater plant coming up too, so, you know.
He is asking for 39 million, I mean.
Yeah.
You know.
He thought he better be nice here. because-
I'm not asking for a whole lot.
Yeah.
Just a brand new state-of-the-art water plant.
Upgrade and expansion.
Yeah.
All right, on the general fund revenue, just, I used, trend as I went across looking at,
We're going back to page one?
yeah. Just in case y'all had any questions there.
No, page one. Page was that.
All right, so property tax was based
three.
on property tax was based on the current rate we have now and the assessed value. PUT, I used the current assessed value. Obviously, that'll change next year, but I don't know.
And the constant yield report we got from the state just showed 7% increase?
Yep.
That,
And there was and I can send you the rest of the attachments that came in if you want to see, because I think it sends me like what the county, it sends like the overview of all if you want to see. Okay.
because I was understanding that practically everybody's assessment went up a huge amount. 20%-ish.
Because when I saw the assessed value, I was like, holy cow, the difference between last year and this year, I was like, geez. So, and even in the property tax, because when I estimated before we got the constant yield, I was much lower in my estimate, not thinking it was going to be such a big jump.
And that constant yield report, that was in part of the council packet, not in this, is that right?
Yes, it was part of the supplemental in the back of your binder, tab 10. I think is where I put it.
Way back
Yeah.
there.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
I didn't make it that far back, no wonder.
That just gives you room to put your other packets in
Yeah, there we
throughout
go.
the.
Yeah, tab 10.
All right, well, I'll study that later.
Just some supplemental and, yeah.
Okay.
Our local income tax, I just went slightly higher this year because we did such a non-conservative increase last year because, trend we'd been bringing in much more than, so I tried to be a little more conservative and again this year till I see where we end up. I know it looks low now, but half the money we usually get from the state is the last quarter of the year into the first quarter of the next year, so. Let's see, highway, so total intergovernmental revenues went up slightly, 55,000. These were just based on trend, and obviously the HUR money's in here, so the revenue I received, the amount the state sent me is why you'll see the bigger increase there. And then the public safety, MSPP, the 102,000 is the new estimate for the grant that they get annually.
So the state is choking on their budget calculations right now. And the federal government seems to be clawing back grants of every form and fashion.
Yeah. We're hoping not with our we had earmark for roads and we have earmark for the plant and the 2,155 million. So we're hoping nothing happens to those.
So congressionally appropriated money like that is probably gonna be okay. There's probably not gonna be that in the go forward, like earmarks came back for a moment in time and probably,
And that might be it.
that's probably it. Who knows? I mean, certainly the current fiscal year earmarks are very, very likely dead. I mean, they're washed out of the current continuing resolution. I don't know. If I had a crystal ball, I would work somewhere and make a lot of money. I don't know if they're gonna pass that tomorrow, but it doesn't include earmarks if the Senate passes it. And then I don't know that there is enough political will to bring them back. So probably what we have is what we have, but I think those will be okay. What I'm more concerned about from a federal and state budget level is our income tax rate. Because I think the reality is we have a lot of people who are either in federal jobs or jobs that are very close to being federal jobs. So like half of our neighborhood are contractors or federal parks workers or law enforcement. I think the domino effect of some of the things happening in DC could affect our income tax over the next couple of years. I think we're probably okay for a year, and then like things are going to start to really change. Everything is so up in the air. Court decided yesterday they have to rehire almost all the employees that the federal government fired, and so it's up and down. But I do think there'll be some budget volatility for at least the next couple years. So I don't know. It's going to be tough to predict, I guess is what I'm saying. It's going to be really tough to predict when Maryland is the state most impacted by uncertainty at the federal level.
That's why I would try to be a little more conservative this year.
We have
Also-
more federal employees and more federal real estate.
And also just remember with the federal earmark money, it requires a 20% match that can't be federal funds,
Right.
you know. All right, total license and permits, I just decreased it 7,500 and I tried to base that on trend of where we have been the last couple years. Charges, our total other services, I am increased by 11,000, and that's just based on the 3% we approved in the landfill tipping fees for the trash service. And miscellaneous other revenues, I actually decreased by 23,000, and much of that was from the speed monitoring system. Hobbs and I had talked, we're gonna see how it comes out this year since we'll have all three back up, but just to be safe and looking at the previous couple years, I didn't wanna over. And then the investment earnings, I just went more conservative because I'm not sure how the interest rates, I don't want us to budget on the investment earnings of the interest, because you don't know when they're gonna drop again to the 0.4% we started out with a couple years ago. So, just a little conservative there. Any questions, or are we good to move to capital?
So, was it was FY '24 that we had like a 700,000 surplus? Is that right? Remember hearing you say that?
Or, yeah. Oh, that was based on, so I was very conservative in a lot of the local income tax and property revenues, and so we took in a little, much more than I anticipated. So I still would try to be a little more conservative this year because I've been talking with the county about local income tax, and I try to be conservative when they're conservative. So I always ask, Jeff and them, hey, what are you guys doing this year? And that's kind of where I try to stick around
On
unless,
the expense side of it, you've been pretty close then, is what you're saying?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, on page 4, the cannabis sales tax.
Yep.
It's not, there's no budget number. It looks like we got 22,500
Oh, there's,
last year.
yeah, I didn't know how we would continue to, I guess as of now, we're gonna continue to get the money from the county. So I can certainly add some revenue in there. That's the only thing I wasn't sure about, because I know the county does a lot of the admin work, so we get a very small portion, but we have taken in 22,000 to date, so I could certainly maybe go with 30,000 for the budget in line with what, because this is the first year we've actually received.
Right, and plus it's gonna grow, operations are gonna grow.
Yeah. So what I'll do is for FY '26.
Nice pun.
Yeah, I was gonna say, no pun intended.
Oh, all those federal employees, like, shopping now, so.
They might have to start growing their own 2 plants. Good job.
I will go in and for the next work session, I'll add a $30,000 revenue for that line unless you guys have another figure. And then next
Good.
year, we can try to base off the previous 2 years. We'll have more data then.
Okay.
So for the next session, will there be an additional column
Yes.
showing the changes this evening and then the new total?
Yep.
Perfect, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate the way you do these, that I can understand them, because numbers are not my strongest.
Yeah, so what I'll do next time is you'll see a column that'll only have, if we adjust it up or down, it'll tell you how much.
yeah.
Yep,
Change column.
yeah. All right, so if we want to go, just really quick, I handed these out tonight. I just wanted you to have a copy. This is our debt service schedule. Tells us, now the debt is already in the budget, but this just breaks it down so you can see what it is. It's the one I handed out just today. There's extra right there.
Oh, I probably have it over here.
So right now, we currently only have the 2 bonds left, the 2016 bond and the 2017 bond. We have paid debt down, and so as of June 30th of this year, our debt balance will be $9,646,500, which is awesome. When I started here, it was like 18 million, 17 million, so we're doing a great job. The 2016 bond will open up this June if we wanted to pay early. My thought would be, let's see how we go through the plant first. I'd rather not take away from what we may need for that. So we have the regular payments already baked into the budget. I think we should leave as is for now.
Okay.
And interest rates on these, can you provide that at some point?
Yep, I have them.
Thank you.
Yeah, I have them at my office.
Okay,
They're actually pretty good too.
just add a row
Yep.
in there for what the interest rates are.
And I have them, I have a full sheet that I keep that has it, so I'll just add a row in here. All right. So after your operating budget, you should have a sheet that looks like this. It's got the green on it. There's 2 of them. The first page is the general fund capital, and the second page is the enterprise fund capital. These numbers you see here are already baked into the summary page on the front, so the totals of these are already accounted for. I'll just kind of go through what's in there, and then if you want to ask department heads any questions about capital, if that works for you guys. All right, police department has requested 2 patrol vehicles as part of their replacement program. The cost is $150,000. They've requested 3 portable radios to replace at a cost of $21,000. The streets department has requested a brush chipper replacement at a cost of $60,000. The utility truck 4-wheel drive 1 ton with snowplow at a cost of $80,000, and a 24-foot enclosed trailer at a cost of $15,000. So the total for general fund capital is $326,000. I did want to let you know, I put a side note at the bottom to talk about the earmark funds that are covering Belvedere and Tillman. Kip and I have talked, so the match would be $400,000 to the town, and our suggestion would be to use, we can use some HUR money, sidewalk funds if you wanted to, and then interest earned from ARPA, because we've earned $700,000 or $800,000 in ARPA interest.
You're sure you can use the interest?
Yes, you
Okay.
can. I did check with the ARPA folks because it's not federal money, so the interest we earn, we can keep and we can use for any type of expense.
I mean, that's just, that has been like the craziest thing about ARPA, because as you know, a lot of federal grants, you're not even allowed to earn interest.
I know.
And so being allowed to earn interest and then also kind of do whatever you want with it
And
is
when I got the
fascinating to me.
email back on it, I saved it because I was like, you can't.
Yeah,
go back
no,
on
I
that.
mean, the ARPA grants that I've dealt with for work, we've been able to earn substantial interest, and
Yeah.
it just boggles the mind.
I'm amazed, and I'm thrilled.
It's great, and they should probably allow you to do that for all federal grants.
I agree.
Because you're leaving money on the table, but.
Yeah, especially with our ICS, we're down to 433, but we're still better than the .4 we were earning when we didn't have it.
So the sidewalk funds would be the new sidewalk revolving fund. To me, that makes a ton of sense, because I would certainly put both of those streets kind of top of what needs to be done sidewalk wise.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah.
And so we put a side note until you guys
Absolutely.
decided.
Yes.
So the cost, Kip, correct me if I'm wrong, 2.4 million, is that the cost of the 2 streets?
We don't have the final cost. That's what we budgeted
Kind of estimating.
When we did the earmark application.
Yes. So, we're hoping it's gonna come in there. With the 20% that we have to match, I'm still confident that that earmark will cover those two streets, and what we use for our match will pick up. So,
I didn't get a chance to look at your long-range capital budget, but do you have repaving our parking lots? The one by the post office,
I
and then
haven't-
the other one at Liberty and Water, whatever that is?
yeah, nah, as far as repaving, haven't put anything in there because of the expense of it, and it seems like our HUR money gets ate up before we get to it.
We use HUR money on parking lots, so that'd be on.
Oh, no, I'm sorry,
throughways,
about streets, not parking lots. But that's definitely one thing we can add to it. It's definitely needed, so,
Thinking of that little parking lot at Liberty and Water, when the town bought that, the neighbor adjacent had requested a landscape buffer or some sort of buffer on the south side of that parking lot, I guess.
yes, and I thought it was more of a berm, so, because he was having trouble with water runoff.
I was thinking it was more of a visual thing. That went down in a vote 2-1. If you could look at that and see if we can find budget money to do some sort of buffer wall there, landscaping sort of buffer, I guess, I don't know.
Okay.
Thank you.
No, I think we should just sell the property.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah. I think we bought it mainly to accommodate parking during
Can't, yeah.
the road, the Liberty and Commerce
Can we sell
road work, and it's,
Why can't we?
yeah.
Well, the one on the corner of,
Oh, I'm.
yes.
Liberty
On
and
Liberty, the
Water
one
Street.
on
Yeah,
Liberty
West Water,
on the
is that
corner.
right?
I'm thinking of Liberty Bill, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
No,
that,
no,
No,
yeah,
no.
that one we can't sell because we have to hold that for future.
Yes.
Yes.
But then that little parking lot. That's
yeah, the
just
one
like
on
a-
the corner, we only did that for the street
We
reconstruction,
should
Liberty
sell
and
it.
Commerce.
Maybe we can sell that and use money to pave the public parking area.
Okay.
For the what?
We
Public
absolutely-
parking area by,
There's just-
beside the post office.
Yeah, I would love us to explore selling that.
Who parks there now?
My neighbor's parks there.
Yeah.
She's got two
Yeah, some of
cars.
the
she parked,
residents
so-
park there, some of the
Everybody.
businesses that are on Water Street, they'll park there.
So it's just whoever?
Yeah.
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 Just like
It
any
was
parking
supposed to
lot,
be just for
Yeah,
the,
just anybody can park there.
it was just overflow for when we were doing the construction.
Yep.
The intent was to sell it
Yeah,
but it
when.
it never came about. The question never came up. So
It's time.
I think it's a great idea.
It's mainly for the
So
people.
I'm sorry, were you talking about landscaping on the Water and Happy Lady or the Water and Liberty?
Water and.
Liberty.
Liberty.
Liberty, okay,
Next to the residence, to the south side of the
Right.
parking lot.
Right.
Not towards the businesses, towards the homes.
towards the homes.
All right. Any other questions on general
One
fund?
thing I would say to that, I'm sorry about selling the property, so thinking about planning and zoning, as far as making certain we've got that pretty tight, because that will bring a building in the future. So I'm just thinking out loud, as far as to make certain all that's buttoned up, to make certain you're not kind of contending with some building that's not, because you're right downtown in the historical district. So I think it's really important to make certain that is really in good shape before you sell that land, because you wouldn't be able to do anything once that land is sold.
And I'm not sure the zoning there either, because there was a house before.
I have no idea. I don't-
Yeah,
I
we'd
mean,
have to
I don't
look
know.
into
house
that.
there.
It's
Right.
CBD.
It's
It's
CBD.
residential
Yeah.
zoning.
No, it's
No, it's
CBD.
CBD.
Is it?
CBD?
I mean,
Right.
Yeah, there was some allocations. There was a couple allocations for it.
Yeah.
yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think we need to put some, again, something a zoning administrator can work on, some teeth around our design standards. Because if you read through them, every single thing says, unless the planning commission grants it, we have a zoning board of appeals, more should be required to go there for variance. Like, if you want something that's a departure from the design standards, it should be a higher standard to get there than just convincing the planning commission to let you have relief from the design standards, especially in the CBD.
Yeah.
And
So I
and
would
the
just-
historic district. I mean, yes,
Yeah.
it's that, yeah.
I mean, we could definitely look into it and then bring any information we get back to you guys to discuss.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would just, until that's kind of looked at clearly, I wouldn't put it on the market. That's
No,
all.
we wouldn't,
You know,
without
it's
coming
like,
back,
To
yeah.
sell it, like,
No, we could just get some information on how we can move forward and then bring it back to you guys to decide. That would have to be decided on by you. All right, next page, enterprise
I mean,
fund.
does anyone we've talked about everything but the things on this,
Oh,
Oh, right.
this sheet.
I got a couple questions
So-
about it.
If you,
The two patrol vehicles, are they fully equipped or that's just the vehicles themselves?
That would include the upfitting with the light sirens and everything needed for the vehicles. So that's final.
Ford Explorer cost you.
Well, that's why I'm asking. And of course, I know you sell the old ones, right?
Yes. So on average, a typical patrol vehicle in which we would purchase is right around 48,000 on the low end.
And the utility, the four-wheel drive utility truck, is that to buy a new one or to replace one?
It's replacing, I think it's 2011. Gary?
It's 2011 truck 10.
Yeah, yeah,
Are
2011.
you keeping that one or are you getting rid of that one?
No, we're getting rid of it.
Okay, okay. And I'm assuming the trailer's for all your equipment for when you have a water or sewer leak or something like that?
Well,
Put something-
actually, what we're gonna do is wind up using it for the lawnmowers.
Okay.
Because then the way we
Storage,
do
yeah.
it now, at night, the lawnmowers come off of the trailer and go into the
Yep.
building, you know.
Yep, I understand.
So,
Leave, yeah,
Take up
leave them in
garage
the
space,
trailer.
exactly, okay.
Right. Just a question back to the parole vehicles, because I know there was some replacement this year, right?
There
Of
are, yes.
Vehicles.
Yes.
So how large is your fleet and how many more do you need to replace in the future? Approximately.
I'll sit here and count for a minute. I believe we have 15 vehicles, and that includes 2 spares that we can utilize, and 1 utility vehicle as a pickup truck for extreme inclement weather, and to tow those speed trailers from point A to point B around town. Ultimately, we had tried to go on a 7-year replacement rotation. So at a 7 years, I mean, you're getting a lot of idle hours out of the vehicles. It's not necessarily about how many miles are on it, and not necessarily about the years, but it's the idle hours. So at 7 years, they're getting to the point where we're replacing parts left and right on these vehicles, to the point they're almost deemed to be unsafe to be on the roadway, is how much we're replacing. So
And we sell them.
Yes.
Okay.
So-
Unsafe for sale. Got
Yes.
it.
So
So this is a rotation.
just give them to the
that
public.
we're
It's
saying.
unsafe.
Okay.
No, we've established a lot of connections within the town over the last year in selling the older out of service vehicles. So we've been very fortunate that we could get rid of them with a decent resale price. So in looking at purchasing our newer vehicles, we also look at resale value. We look at the ability to resell them down the road. So your standard Ford Explorer these days doesn't go for a whole lot. We looked at changing up the type of vehicle for safety reasons, cargo capacity, and so forth. So ultimately, down the road, the Dodge Durangos we chose to go with are less on the serviceable maintenance side, but also in the resale down the road in 7 years, they carry higher value than the Fords do.
That's what these are, Durangos?
Well, so these 2 that are in this capital request, one is a Durango for patrol, and another one would be a second K-9 vehicle. It's a pickup truck. So that'll replace the K-9 vehicle, the second K-9 vehicle.
And then on the general fund revenue, just so you know, when he does sell his vehicles, there's a line in the general fund revenue, 5850, that it's miscellaneous revenues, and that's where all the money for the patrol vehicles he sells
Goes
goes.
back in. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next page would be the enterprise fund capital. We have sewer collection system repairs, 55,000. This is, been in the budget every year for the last few years to kind of, any work that needs to come up. The sewer inspection camera for 15,000. This is a replacement. I believe the current one they have broke. In the water, there's a fire hydrant. We do a replacement program each year that we try to replace one. So the cost there is 13,000.
That's for one fire hydrant? Will
That's,
not be-
let me explain that. That's for a contractor to replace one.
Yeah.
Our staff is, to the point that we're replacing it in-house now. The hydrant itself,
I'm just asking, because a couple years ago it was 8,000, wasn't it?
yeah.
I know
Well, the
stuff
price
going
of the
up.
hydrants
Yes.
doubled. If I remember, they're
Yeah.
about 4,000. They're 4,000 now, where they used to be 2,000 or less a few years
Exactly.
ago.
Yep.
So,
Do we have any old ones still around with the 4-inch?
yep, we're still replacing them. We've got, I was just looking today, I think we've got six of them now that are over 55 years old. So,
They're paying.
Yeah.
I have to say something about the sewer inspection camera. Next month, I will be here 14 years. That was the first RFP I did when I started at the town, was the sewer camera, I think.
That's how old it was
14,
before it broke.
14 years.
I know it's,
Wow.
yeah.
All right, and the final is the gator replacement ATV with the snowplow for the farm. So the total capital for enterprise fund baked in the budget is $115,000. Let's see if you guys had any questions on the enterprise fund capital. So if not, I was gonna wrap the night up with, Crystal has a small proposal on the health surplus. So I was gonna wrap that, unless somebody else wants to go over anything else, I figured I can clean up some of the things we discussed tonight, bring it back for the next budget, and just let Crystal end it with the health surplus, information that she has, if that's okay.
Perfect. So I did pass around this health holiday proposal chart that I put together. Karen and I met with Council President Kaiser just to discuss about the, health premium structures and then with the surplus. And I wanted to at least share with you what we had received, $96,072 in surplus from the FY24 plan year. So this chart is kind of to give a scenario or proposal, options per se. I wanted to at least provide to you a list to kind of break down so you can see what, based on a March invoice, what the cost would be for hourly employees, and that's total premium cost, and then as well for the salaried employees. And then in the third column with the surplus received, I just tried to vertically list out, subtracting that we would be able to afford, the town, for hourly employees, about 4 pay periods of a health holiday where they would not be deducting the health premium in their paychecks. And then I did put boxes around the two options. So the one option is the leftover, 21,766 could be either used for 1 month of salaried employees, but then you would have a deficit of 1,232. Or the second option is to provide hourly employees an additional pay period, so it'd be half the month, and then you would have 3,190 remaining from the surplus.
I really appreciate you putting this together. So we met, like Crystal said, after the conversation last year about maybe changing the way we did our premium structure. This, to me, using the surplus and doing it this way makes a ton of sense. We met about it. That way, we're not married to it. So if there's a year where we don't have, we're not scrambling to find budget funds to cover a different structure, we can change it based on the surplus, based on the need, but this still gives the lower paid employees relatively significant relief from their health premiums, which make up a big percentage of their salaries in some cases. Also, because it's the surplus, it's money saved by the people that participate in the health plan, and so then we're returning it to those people and further incentivizing, healthy behavior so that we can continue to do this year over year. So I really like it. Personally, would be in favor of the first one because the salaried employees are contributing to that surplus too. So to me, I would be in favor of the first plan and finding budgeted funds for that $1,200. But
Why would we do it as a holiday for a limited number of pay periods instead of reducing the premiums all year long so that each household has predictable cash flow and they don't suddenly have a hiccup in month 3 like, oh crap, I got an extra $400 deduction.
is that difficult to manage?
It's administratively slightly difficult just with the software, and also it would be a lot of manual entries. This way, we can track it.
I'm not sympathetic to that, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm more sympathetic to everybody's household and their household budgets.
I think, just thinking through, because I hear what you're saying and reliable, I also think it might feel honestly better to have a more substantial increase a couple of times a year if we strategically do these in August and November, let's say, it's right before you're putting your kids back in school and it's the holidays, it might feel more significant than a few dollars spread across the year to have
I would say it'd
a
probably be
larger,
also more noticeable
yeah.
of having it in those pay periods. I know in the past when we've done it, we've actually, when it was approved, we would let employees know, okay, upcoming, these are the pay periods that you will not be deducting your health insurance.
We like twice, 2 times a year where you have an extra pay period in the month. I mean, that's
Right.
one
Yeah.
one obvious place to put it is the fit. You've got the extra pay period. Then
I also-
it's one of those.
I also think in the second year, if we can't be as generous, it's gonna feel like, why'd my health premiums go up? If we had spread it across the year, instead of you got relief from the total health premium, and now you're just paying it, instead of not paying it. So I see what you're saying for the reliability, but I think for like human behavior, how it's gonna feel reasons, I prefer it this way.
Consensus?
So this is the first time it's going to be done?
Yeah, Plan A.
Yeah, we've,
Again,
we
I'm
have done,
catching up, so
as far
this
as
is
like the health
recurring every year.
holidays,
Yeah.
we have done it in the past.
But not tiered like this.
Not tiered like this. We have done it in the past where it was just hourly salaried put together, just total. This is the first year that we're breaking it down by whether you're an hourly employee or salaried employee.
But there has been give back.
Yes,
in the
yep,
past, sorry.
and I brought let's see, so overall, since we've been with Legit Health Co-op, back in FY 2017, we've gotten a total surplus of over $477,000, $477,928.
But this is a really high year though, when you think about that. A fourth of
It's
that.
not our highest year, but it is a really high year. There was one year back in the FY 21, we received over 100,000 in surplus, and we had like I think it was a 6 pay period
Yeah.
health holiday. So
And I think that might have been one of the first years we started discussing, like, what can we do with these?
right. I
these-
think the years before there was council, or we had all decided to keep it into a general fund.
It helped pay the employer
right.
cost premium, and so then this way we were able to spread it out back to the employees.
Yeah. I mean, I like this a lot. I really think we had to do something for our hourly employees and their health premium, so. Do we
there-
have
yeah.
consensus to do this? And then
Yes.
one of the options? Consensus to do this?
Yeah, so it sounds like we've done it recurrently. And
We
as
didn't
far
do
as
it last year.
when
No,
you
not last
can
year.
do it.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
you have
Sorry.
that.
So,
yep.
because I've seen payroll things where it's just, again, if the surplus is there, it's paid back, and the employees understand that, right? So it's not like,
Well, yeah, council can make a decision on what they want to do with that surplus.
no, understood.
Yeah.
Right.
I just don't want you to think, the employees don't expect it back. It's just, it's always
Well,
a,
that's kind of a question I'm having. 'cause
It's definitely an
employees
incentive
can,
that they've
like,
talked about.
It's definitely
It's kind of like a
incentive.
Christmas
Yeah, to,
bonus,
like, not
for lack of
smoke
a
and stuff
better
like that.
word, you
Right.
know, it's like, oh, well, we did it, and we're not getting it this year, why aren't we getting
Right.
it? So I just don't know
Duck and cover,
how
duck and
it's
cover.
being done, how we've done it in the past, that's all.
right. Well, and, a lot of it is, we have done it in the past, like I said, but it's been just all employees all together, whatever the total is. And this is the first year that we're breaking it from the hourly and the salaried. Yep.
All right, go ahead.
What was I gonna say? Oh, one other thing with regards to the health insurance. So I know that Karen had mentioned before, so we had in the budget estimated a 10% increase. Just yesterday, I had a meeting with our account manager, and they are telling us that it's going to be a 3 to 5% increase. Based on our claim year, based on,
But until we have
the
final numbers.
the overall trend is 9%, but based on our claim year, it's been below the trend. So I'll be getting the numbers March 24th in order to be able to help update the budget lines.
For now, I'm gonna keep the 10% just to
Yes.
be
For now,
safe.
until you
Yeah.
know
Yep.
for sure.
Yes.
But that's a potential.
And then
that'll
we'll,
come down.
absolutely, absolutely.
So we got consensus to do this. Do we have consensus for option one?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you
Very much.
seriously for putting that together. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, thank you.
All right, is there anything else tonight, guys?
Oh, I do have, I'm sorry. One quick,
Leave it to
I'm sorry,
Crystal.
one quick question.
Where's the bill?
Where's the bell?
When, I guess I need to figure out, like, when would it be applied? Because I know you had mentioned
Yeah, I just
October,
think let's
November,
be-
you know.
Do you want this
Do you
fiscal
want
year
it
or
this
next?
fiscal year? Do you want it next fiscal year?
Since we already received
The
the,
surplus.
Right.
we have received the check, so did you want it in FY?
Can you guys make a recommendation to, I mean,
Did you do any of it this year, this fiscal
Yeah.
year, or?
I'm sorry?
we
Did you
have
do
not
it?
done anything this week.
We haven't done anything
You
with
haven't
it.
done
We just
anything-
got the check and we have it. So we
can
can
do it
whenever
apply
it
it,
makes sense.
we
What
can
did we do
apply.
last year? I mean,
We
this-
didn't do anything last
we
year.
haven't done
That's
anything.
why it's
We
not
kept
in.
it, all right.
Yeah.
We're greedy, all right.
So I can apply it this year if that's, you know,
Can you come up with what you think is best and make a proposal? I mean, like, can literally be a sentence.
And it can be
The health
used-
holidays should be these
Yeah.
pay
Yes.
periods.
I would do like 50-50 or something.
It could be in one or the other or both. The
both.
surplus being in the current, you know, we may want to do more of it in the current.
yeah, mainly because I estimated based on, you know,
Current
March,
cost.
current
I love
cost.
the holiday
Yeah.
idea, though. You know, like around
Yeah.
Christmas and. You
I
know.
just think it'll feel meaningful
Yes.
to
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you're gonna do it, like you're saying, a meaningful time, like
Yes.
Yeah.
you said.
Back to school
sort of
time and
school
holidays to me.
holidays.
I just think
I'm
when
fine
you're
with
thinking
that.
about a family budgeting, if we're thinking about that, I know those are the two most expensive months in the Kaiser house. So
We can
I
certainly
could
do that too. Yeah.
Absolutely, if we want to
There's
do like
no-
a
yeah.
November, December.
And I will
Yeah.
tell you, let me just mention, in the current budget, we had changed the turkey gift card from $15 to $30.
Oh, yeah, we
because
discussed that one. I
Yes,
discussed that.
and we had changed the bonus from 100 to 200. So that is baked in. If you guys had any issues, we can discuss at next meeting and adjust accordingly. But I wanted to let you know that that's currently in the current budget.
Yeah. I mean, you can't buy a turkey for $15, so yeah.
Look at Jeff. He's like, yes, you can. All right, if no other questions, I guess, Ashley, you can adjourn it.
Move to close.
I mean, council president,
Oh,
sorry.
you're fine. All right, we're adjourned.
Excellent.